supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Bryan Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Hey, hello. It's a Monday night live edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap. Are we live? Are we live? We might be live. Yeah, we're live. Hey, I don't know. Bryan Fulford here with A.D. Drew. Had to make sure we're in the right spot here. Drew, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing fine, my brother. Doing fine.
All right. It's been a minute since we've done this thing. So it feels like just a week ago. We did it last Monday. So yeah. I am well, first off, let me say happy Father's Day to you and to anyone else out there watching. Was that Tamara T? Thanks for jumping in, being one of the first people in.
Definitely.
And also got to say happy Juneteenth, as well as it's a national holiday today. So we want to say happy Juneteenth. And guess what? In just 48 hours, the summer solstice, Drew, will, if I'm not mistaken, it will be the longest day, or no, how am I going to say that? Not the longest day. The longest day with sun.
Daylight.
Yeah, the longest day with sun. So it's the anti-vampire day, where no vampires will want to be out hanging out and about on Wednesday. So that's the summer solstice coming up on Wednesday, June 21st. And yeah, so what's good, Drew? What's good? I'm doing out here on I'm doing a little house sitting, little dog sitting. So at any moment, there could be a loud dog that decides to bark during the midst of the show. We'll see what happens. We'll see how this goes. So how are you?
We continued our summer streak. So, because I do believe for the last 6 weeks, Bryan, or so, I don't think we have done a show on our regularly scheduled day since April, where we've both been in our studio since April.
Yeah.
Either we've changed days or one of us has been on the road as you continue the trend of being on the road, and we both continue the trend of being on a day late, a dollar short. We'll just say that. But got something I got to get off my chest though, Bryan, before we get into reading all of the necessary information that you read every show. I was at a softball tournament this weekend. I was umpiring a softball tournament. I came a little bit out of retirement to help out and umpire some games this weekend. And Bryan, I noticed something was not good. You had a good tournament, no bad interaction with the fans. We get all this bad talk about how fans and how disrespectful fans have become towards officials. Either we were that good as officials or the fans were just that much respectful of it. Because even on the controversial call, we didn't get too much chatter outside of the normal come on blue, that you expect to get when you have that 50-50 call goes against a coach of your team. But Bryan, what I want to talk about occurred off the field.
Okay.
And I'm trying to keep this as delicate and as clean as possible. But Bryan, I rediscovered how nasty folks are.
Rediscovered. Now, you're in a college environment and you're talking about rediscovered. Okay, go ahead. I'm listening. You piqued my ears now.
Obviously, I was dealing with this was a travel ball tournament. So they had the fields I were at had a 12U, 14U, and 18U tournament on the fields that I was at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hot out there, Bryan. So brother trying to stay hydrated, correct?
Okay.
And in the midst of hydration, what's the one thing that you do? The more you drink, the more you have to go and do what? You have to go and let it out.
Usually, number one, you got to go. You got to get rid of the liquids. The liquid got to go somewhere.
And plus, I'm on the field, so it's not like in the middle of the third inning, if I got to go, I can just leave the field and go. So I make it a point to make sure that I go between games, right, Bryan?
Yeah, that would make sense. Yep.
So as you go and you handle your business, and I just started observing, damn, this brother was just standing next to me. He didn't wash his hands. This brother just came out the stall. He didn't wash his hands. Not one time. Multiple people every time I went into the doggone bathroom. But then when you start seeing 10-year-old boys doing the same thing, just coming in by themselves and just, shake, and go.
That's what 10-year-old boys are supposed to do, right? They're supposed to be nasty. 10-year-old boys. That's what they do. That's what we did.
But I would expect it for 40-year-old, 50-year-old men. So I rediscovered.
It's called, you know what it is, Drew? It's called hand. See, so here's what COVID did. COVID has convinced everybody that hand sanitizer that cleanses everything. Oh, I don't need to, I just throw some hand sanitizer on it. It's like what was that? It used to be Robitussin. Now it's hand sanitizer. I'm just gonna throw some hand sanitizer on it. I'm clean. Squirt, squirt. I'm clean. I do that now. I go into the look. I'm guilty of this too. I have not washed I get to a restaurant and I haven't washed my hands. I'm lazy. I don't want to go walk. This is lazy. I'm admitting this. So
Especially because
I don't go up to the bathroom. Yeah, exactly. But you know what? What's at the front? The hand sanitizer. So I go to the front, squirt, squirt. I'm good. That's what we have become now, Drew. That's what we have become. We carry around hand sanitizer. Squirt, squirt.
I would have been happy if I would have seen people do this. But, Bryan, these are the same people who throw me back in foul balls and all kinds of stuff, It's not like, my hand's already nasty from, just the ball being in the grass and the dirt. And
what's a little more dirt? What's a little more dirt? A little more germs, a little more dirt. It's not gonna mean nothing. Wipe some dirt on it. Throw some Robitussin on it.
But Bryan, I discovered how nasty folks was. I rediscovered how nasty. And I thought if COVID would have taught us anything, you say it taught us to use hand sanitizer. I thought it would have taught us to wash our hands and be more conscious of just simple stuff like that. But I was wrong.
Yeah. No, wishful thinking on your part, and it's admirable. I applaud you for having for wishing better of mankind and society. Okay. So let's see. Let me get through the regulars as the regular information. If you're watching our show on Facebook and on Twitter, or let me start there. Just hit the thumbs up button on Facebook, YouTube. If you're on YouTube, we ask that you please subscribe to the Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page that you're watching us on. We are a part of Jericho Broadcast Networks, which is the parent company of the Black College Sports Network, and all of our shows that appear on the Black College Sports Network. Our show, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, the O&G Strike Zone, Carlos Brown Show, and others soon in the fall will be right here on this YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell, and that way, whenever our shows are going live, you'll be able to get notifications. And hopefully you got notifications last night. I did make a point, Drew, of sending a notification from our Facebook page and YouTube to let people know that we weren't doing a show. So hopefully, that maybe brings in a few more people. Otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves, but that's all right. We'll drop it into a podcast form, and you know where it'll go, Drew? Right to the BCSN Pod Zone, which is the podcast platform that can be found everywhere you listen and download podcasts: Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple and Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and more. And that's where you can find BCSN Pod Zone. So for those of you who are podcast listeners, like I am when I'm traveling up and down I-75 from the Central Florida area to Atlanta, I listen to plenty of podcasts. So that's what's up. Did I miss anything, Drew? Anything you think I missed there?
No. Just want to say hello to Tamara T, Baby 305, Jeremiah Clark. First ones in. What my boy Chuck Hunt at? He usually one of the first ones in. Also, he must be at work or something tonight, Bryan.
Well, hopefully he's not
Calvin
working on a
Vincent.
holiday. Hopefully Chuck's out. Hopefully Chuck is out barbecuing and grilling or doing something.
There he is. There he is, man. There he is. There he is. He showed up. Okay. Chuck Hunt.
Well, we appreciate you, Calvin Vincent.
And Bryan, with today being Juneteenth,
yep,
is this still a recognized holiday? Because I know I had to remind people when they were talking about things, somebody was trying to schedule a meeting at work on Monday. I'm like, we closed on Monday, right, bro? Somebody else was trying to do. Oh, Monday. What we call for Monday? It's a holiday. Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, Juneteenth. What is Juneteenth, by the way? I'm like, oh my god. I was, and I just make it real simple, Brian. It's the Black 4th of July. So that I don't get into all the, Texas and tell them that it took 2 years for the people in Texas to find out that they was actually free, even though they had been free 2.5 years earlier. I don't get into all that portion of it, Brian, even though our freedom actually occurred on June 1, 1863. It took until, on January 1, 1863. It took until June 19, 1865 for the people in Texas to finally learn that they were free. And the ironic thing about it is that the place where the last group of slaves found out they were free just happens to be the place where Prairie View A&M happens to be located at. So just irony. I don't go through all that with them, Brian. I just look, it's the Black folks' 4th of July. It's when we got our freedom.
Well, look, I will
Jeremiah Clark say he.
I think
Jeremiah Clark say he at work, Brian.
And you know what? I'll tell you this, Jeremiah Clark. You're not catching me there. You're not catching me at work. This is like the old King Day before I became an educator, and we got King Day off. I made a point to take King Day off when I used to work, in corporate environments. I made a point to take King off. Now, sometimes it was hit or miss. I tell you, sometimes it was hit or miss because my dad would say, now you need to go to work. That's Dr. King would want. I'm like, oh, come on, Dad. I said, nope, go to work. But I said, you know what? If we can take President's Day off, if we can take sometimes we used to take Columbus Day off. I said, no, I'm taking King Day off. And so I would say, Jeremiah, I know you're working. Hey, I can't tell you what to do with your summer vacation plans, but you owe it. Take it off. Take the day off. Let people know I'm not volunteering. I'm not doing nothing on Juneteenth. Don't ask me. Don't call me. I'm taking it off. Now, I will say this,
Brian. When I was in Alabama, we used to get Jefferson Davis' birthday off.
Okay, let people know who Jefferson Davis is for those who don't know history.
Jefferson Davis was the former president of the Confederacy. And in Alabama, we used to get, depending on which job I was working at that point in time, we got Jefferson Davis' birthday off. And you know what the brother did? I took that day just like they took our Juneteenth day off. You wasn't gonna see me. Thank y'all for the holiday. We also got Robert E. Lee's birthday off, also, Brian. But they got sneaky with the Robert E. Lee birthday because the state law in Alabama, Robert E. Lee's birthday and King Day are celebrated on the same day.
Oh, the dirty dogs. Dirty dogs. Well, here's what I would say. I saw an interesting discussion on Twitter, which is the great place to find interesting discussions. And, somebody had posted about July. You mentioned saying, and you telling somebody it was Black folks July 4th. Well, I wouldn't categorize it in that way personally, because I feel like it owes its own. Juneteenth is deserved its own acknowledgement for what it is. Given the fact that this country spent so many years kind of hiding in plain view its ugliest truth, which is slavery, right? So, you acknowledging that for your coworker. And it was interesting watching the news reports this morning. I woke up just to kind of see, yes, it's being celebrated, but it's also being recognized for what it is. And I think that needs to happen. Now, here's the one that'll get you, Drew. The discussion, I'm going to read exactly the tweet. right? Because I'm not gonna say who it came from, because I don't want you to know. I don't want y'all to know I follow this person. But anyway, yes, I said it. So the question was, I hate to read it. I'm gonna read it the same way. No, I'm gonna clean it up. Why aren't us going? Okay, so I'm paraphrasing. It was why aren't people celebrating Juneteenth in a similar fashion like they celebrate Cinco de Mayo? And so part of me had to kind of be like, well, I just sat back and I listened to him. I was reading the replies, getting a chuckle. So this is my guilty pleasure. I like to see dumb comments on Twitter, and then I just read the comments, and I get a good laugh out of them. Right?
A dumb comment following a dumb post.
Yes.
All right. So what?
Yeah,
give me some of the responses. I want to hear this. Why don't Black folks celebrate Juneteenth like Hispanics celebrate? Is it Hispanic? Is Cinco de Mayo supposedly a Hispanic holiday, or is it a Mexican holiday? Consider the whole doggone thing is made up. Because in Mexico they don't celebrate May 5th.
That's the thing. They don't. Cinco de Mayo is been bastardized into a basic drinking party at your local establishment that sells Mexican food. That's what the Battle of Pueblo, right? I don't know if that necessarily was Mexico's independence. I haven't studied enough history to say it is or is not. I know it has been turned into a campaign for people to drink, right? So the question said, people went harder for Cinco de Mayo than they went for Juneteenth. Embarrassing. And so you read some of the comments, and here's a comment. Could it be that Juneteenth is not based on getting drunk? Some of us just want to have a good time and get some rest. So that brings up to the fact that this year Cinco de Mayo is on a Friday. My birthday is the day after Cinco de Mayo. So I knew, Cinco de Mayo on a Friday. Juneteenth is on a Monday. Who's going hard on a Monday? The next comment said, who's going hard on a Monday? Because we got to go to work on Tuesday. You can't go too hard on a Monday.
Right. Yeah,
you can't go too hard on Monday, right? Because you got to deal with what the next day? You got to deal with work.
Work.
Yeah. So that was, I'm telling you, the thread was just entertaining as hell. And then somebody said, somebody dropped a question about your July 4th. Yeah. And they kind of the same holiday. And I'm like, oh, hell no. To lead after now, July 4th and Juneteenth are the same. I'm like, what are we doing here, people? What are we doing? Why do this? Why can't Juneteenth just be Juneteenth, recognizing and celebrating our freedom, and let July 4th be July 4th for what it is.
Right. Hey, all right, Brian. Two things. A, you mentioned Cinco de Mayo, and that it being a made up holiday for people to drink, celebrating Mexican or Hispanic culture, correct? What's going to happen the next time we have the cross section of Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday, Brian?
Technically, that I don't think that can happen because of the way the calendar falls. I think the closest Cinco de Mayo has been is on a Wednesday.
Well,
I don't technically.
It can fall on a Tuesday.
Nah,
It baked it.
I don't.
Yeah.
All right, somebody do some research out there. Somebody who's listening,
too.
has Cinco de Mayo fallen on a Tuesday?
May 5th could be a Tuesday.
I don't really. It's rare. I think because of the way the calendar falls, I think you're more likely to have a Cinco de Mayo into the weekend, like late in the week, versus earlier in the week. Now that's my unofficial observation based on
your
my
birthday has never been on a Wednesday.
That's not true.
Okay, so if your birthday is on a Wednesday, that means Cinco de Mayo was on Tuesday.
All right,
which it may have been a minute, but which may have been pre-Taco Tuesday when it last happened to you, bro.
And wouldn't it logically make sense that there's 6-7 days in the week? Wouldn't once every 6 or 7 years? I know somebody's thinking that, so I just thought of it myself. Wouldn't once every 6 or 7 years Taco Tuesday fall on or Cinco de Mayo fall on a Tuesday?
It could be a double cycle because it could fall in a leap year that make it skip that day. You know, yeah. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm just throwing it out there. All right, and Bryan, last thing before our guest comes on, John. I'm glad that Juneteenth got passed as a federal holiday 2 years ago, before the people in your state of Florida had a chance to start doing this stuff with all these history books and everything else, Bryan.
No. Don't put this on the people of Florida.
Not the people, the governor.
Yeah, thank you. This is one man who feels like he has been empowered by a few 100,000 votes. Again, he only won by a small margin, enough of a margin where now he feels empowered and emboldened to do a lot of crazy but anyway.
Yeah. And Bryan, the answer to your question, Bryan, about Cinco de Mayo is on the screen. But anyway, I'm glad that it was passed, because it would be a doggone shame that the kids in Florida would possibly not learn about what Juneteenth is, as they're trying to sanitize the books in the state of Florida. But Bryan, they've always said if you want to hide something for people, especially Black people, put it in a book. But now we need to add an asterisk to that, Bryan. Put it in the book and hide the book in the state of Florida. Nobody will ever get to see it ever again.
Oh man, that's a low down dirty joke. Ha ha ha. All right. So look, I know anyone who might have tuned into our show, obviously, you understand we are not yet. And we are on summer hours. Obviously, our show hasn't started when we said it was going to start. For how long now? We're going on 6-something weeks and all that. So we are clearly in summer mode. And, we'll eventually get into some sports, because we're going to get into talking about the NCAA revenue numbers. We're going to nerd
about today, Bryan.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in hour 2 and get into some HBCU sports news. But I told Drew a couple weeks ago, man, look, I am a big time summer movie. I geek out in the summer with movies, right? And so, one of the things for me is I said, look, we got to start coming up with some summer content. I don't know, like I said, whether it's movies or music. This is Black Music Month. Don't sleep on that, folks. I know it's been changed to a lot of other things in popular culture, but it started as Black Music Month was always a dominant thing that was advertised, and now those advertising dollars are going elsewhere. So whenever you have a chance to celebrate the many great new artists that are Black, please retweet, share, hashtag Black Music Month. Anyway, that's June. So all that to say, summertime's a good time. The sports is a little lighter. The major sports, I don't know. We can talk about golf, Drew, but if you're like me, you hate Rory McIlroy. I
forgot that the U.S. Open even occurred this weekend since Tiger's not playing anymore. And is anybody even going to be watching the French Open, considering Venus and Serena aren't there now? But we're not going to get into that. We got our next.
Those of us who have stakes in the game, Drew, we're always watching. Whether it's background or whether we're just like whether we're paying attention, that's a whole other story. But we always watch, sleep on that. Yeah. So we said, look, I told you, I said we gotta go off script a little bit of what we normally talk about, and we gotta talk some movies and just kind of nerd out a little bit, and who better to nerd out with than our very own grumpy old nerd. That's right. We have a grumpy old nerd on staff. That's part of the Jericho Broadcast Network's family. So that's what we're going to do. I don't know. Are we going to take a break and then go to Uncle John? Or are we going to? All right. So we're going to take a break.
The proper way.
All right. We're going to take a break. Come back. We're going to nerd out. Hang in there. If you tune in for sports, hang in there. We'll get to sports. If you love movies, if you love, just nerding out on comics and movies, stuff like that, then you're gonna want to join us in the next segment. Make sure you stick around.
I think we just lost Bryan. You're listening to watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Bryan and A.D. We'll be right back on the other side.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Looking for the latest information on Southern University Sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU Athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Stride K-12 powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of being a leader in online education to work for you. Dive into curriculum design for the online classroom. Team up with state-certified teachers trained in virtual instruction. Take control of your child's education journey. Discover the power of personalized learning with a leader experienced in preparing kids for a future they can be excited about. Take charge. Stride K-12. Enroll now for the fall.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Hopefully, my signal is better than what it was. I'm not sure. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Okay, we're
Yes,
good
sir.
now. All right. Well, hey, joining us right now is our very own grumpy old nerd, Uncle John Moran, co-host of the Grumpy Old Nerds that appear right here on Jericho Broadcast Network's MyJBN 1 on YouTube every Wednesday night. John, how you doing tonight?
I am magnificent, gentlemen. How are you all doing today?
Doing fine, my brother. Doing fine.
Good. Always good to be in the presence of my JBN cousins.
Right. Well said. So for people who may not be familiar with the Grumpy Old Nerds, give us a little or a rundown of the show, and so on and so forth. And obviously, the show comes on Wednesday evenings, 8:30 Eastern, and you can always catch the shows on replay on our JBN YouTube page. But let people know those who aren't familiar about the show.
Well, it's literally an excuse for me and 5 of my friends to act a fool on Dan Trails on the web. To be honest, we're out here talking about movies, sci-fi, TV, comics. There's gaming conversations, there's cosplay conversations, all kind of good stuff. You know, when I was a kid, it was hard to find other kids of color who were into comics like I was. I would go to the 7-Eleven and buy comic books, and I'd have to put them in a brown paper bag out of embarrassment. You know, people would make fun of me. And now that we're
put them in a brown paper. Hold on. You put them in a brown paper bag, like the magazines from behind the counter instead of in front of the counter.
Right. You didn't know what I had in that brown paper bag.
What they had the divider.
But wait. The irony is, if I'd have had those other magazines in my brown paper bag, I'd have been so cool. But because I didn't, they'd have made fun of me. I'd have had a lot more friends if I'd have had those magazines in a brown paper bag. But this is an opportunity for us as an older generation of people of color who have come up watching this stuff. You know, it's cool to be a nerd now. Everybody wants to be involved in pop culture, cosplay, all the stuff that we got made fun of. Now everybody has embraced. And not to say that we're gatekeeping or haters, but you know, we have certain opinions on certain things that people now are just now becoming coming into the circle.
I feel so much more comfortable in my nerdness now than I did. I masked my nerdness in sports, John. I'm confessing that here and now. That's why I'm a sport. That's why I live in two worlds the way I do, because I masked that other side because it was cool to talk about and play sports. But then when I wanted to kind of nerd out, I'd go find like the everybody with geeks and the sports, because I knew how to navigate those conversations in both worlds. Didn't help my game with the ladies. I'll admit that. But I mean, look, as a young teenager, look, I was okay. I was okay at that time until I went to family.
It's hilarious because now everybody wants to, let's go to the latest Marvel movie, or let's go see Little Mermaid, and you know, back in the day, if I'd have told my other friends that I wanted to do this stuff, they'd have looked at me cross-eyed. There was actually a Doctor Who club at my high school that I was ashamed to join because I was on the football team. And now I look back, I'm like, you know what? I should have just gone ahead and done it because, you know, I'm a fan. I'm a true fan of Doctor Who. But back in the day, my black self being in the Doctor Who club, oh no, I'd have been ostracized. It wouldn't have even been funny. So, I mean, it's nice that we are in this era of inclusion and everybody can enjoy what they want to enjoy. But yeah, it was rough back in the day being a fan of this stuff.
I'm gonna bring that to a sports analogy for myself, because I was a good tennis player coming up as a youth, and when I got to high school, and I'll admit I went to a non-African American high school. I was bused to my high school, so I was part of the 20%. Okay. That was out there, and of that 20%. about 0.2% actually lived in the district. So, but I was pretty good tennis player, and I thought about going out for the tennis team in high school, but I could be the only brother out there swinging a doggone tennis racket. So I did what every other brother who knew he wasn't quite good enough to play baseball because I couldn't hit a curveball. And when I got to about 14, so I did what everybody else did. I ran track. I actually wound up being good at track.
Okay.
But I probably would have much rather been, thinking I was, Arthur Black instead of Arthur Ashe out there. This even if I would have had the Williams sisters, at least I would have had a African American person look at. All you had was Zena Garrison back in the day as far as black women, because I didn't know anything about Althea Gibson at that point in time. So, I understand your pain.
No, it's funny how we were pigeonholed in certain positions. It was basketball, track. You couldn't read comic books. You couldn't enjoy, sci-fi and stuff of that nature. And I personally, I had to kind of withdraw. I wasn't very social anyway, so I kind of withdrew into this world of, Star Wars, Superman the movie, the very first one, just stuff like that to entertain me. And I felt alone. Man, this turned into a sob story. Hold on. But there are certain aspects where you kind of felt alone. It was just like, wow, I wish I had friends to talk to, which brings us back to Grumpy Old Nerds. And now we're in a position where we can go out there and give our honest and probably abrasive opinions about all the stuff that's out there now.
Yeah, I make it a point as an educator in high school and middle school, when I see that student, even if it's someone semi-popular student who's sort of in an area where you may not categorize them as, hey, that's what you should be doing, or that's your clique, I make a point to just privately tell them, hey man, I like to see that you're with this group. Don't give this up. Don't be peer pressured into giving. You enjoy this. Don't be pressured into giving this. I say the same thing about high school students with their faith, because that was another thing that I was kind of one of them things. I was ashamed. I went to church all the time, but it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to talk about that. So now when I see kids, I almost get misty-eyed when I see kids expressing their faith as a teenager. And I felt like such a coward, because I was like, I was not strong enough to talk about that. But anyway, that it all parallels. But let's kind of get into this summer. We're kind of out of COVID. I feel like dare I say COVID is not around anymore. I don't want anybody to jump on me or get flagged. But we're sort of, I feel like we're removed from the shackles of COVID. People are going to the movies more. The movies are making multi-millions of dollars. The advertising is back. The prices are outrageous. You got to join a movie club these days just to get a deal or feel like you're getting a deal. The movies that are out, that have come out so far, what is your evaluation of what we've seen? And because I feel like we're almost at about the halfway point in the summer. The summer movies kind of start Memorial Weekend, and we're almost at the halfway point. What we've had Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man. We've had I don't know if you consider, we had the Flash. I don't know if you consider. I consider we had Transformers. We had Fast X. I throw that in there because
at this point, Fast X is a superhero franchise, because none of that.
Hey, thank you. Exactly.
None of it. When Vin Diesel starts shooting cars into space, now we're just like, okay, you know what? let's just
off the rails.
Yes. But those films, it's interesting because this summer, I think, is going to mark the beginning of Marvel's downfall. And what I mean by that is they've had a chokehold on the superhero genre for so long. It's been over 10 years now, and they've made so much content. People expect a particular level of excellence from them. And don't get me wrong, they've built up enough sweat equity where they could throw out something like a Fast 10 and it would still make money. But the quality of the films is beginning to kind of wear, and you're starting to see the same stories over and over. And they really have, I think the breaking point is going to be Secret Invasion, which comes out on Disney Plus on Wednesday. That's gonna, the reviews for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 were mixed at best. You're looking at Ant-Man Quantumania was terrible, just a terrible film. And you're looking at them repeating the same formula over and over. You can only tell so many stories about the same subject. And I feel that the best superhero movie out, which is kind of a Marvel production, but Sony co-owns the property, was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is hands down the best superhero film that I've seen in a long time.
Are you familiar with the concept of jumping the shark, or right? Are you familiar with that concept?
Yeah, yes. When Fonzie jumped the shark on Happy Days, yes, sir. I am right there with you.
So for anybody who doesn't know what that means, the concept of jumping the shark is when an event happens in a TV series or show that pretty much signals the downfall. Like any of your favorite shows that you love, there's a point where you just say, oh hell, it just all started going downhill after this moment or this season or something like that, right? A lot of shows hang on too long, right? So you're kind of implying that you feel like the Marvel thing, the storylines are we're about to hit that point with Secret Invasion.
Well, what happened is, I think we jumped the shark with Infinity War and Endgame, because they hit such a peak that they're still trying to scramble and recover from that. Avengers Endgame. Let's break it down like this. You had a situation where you've built this story so high and so far, and you hit that peak. There's an inevitability that you're going to fall, and the quality is going to fall. And I mean, that's just how life goes: mountains, peaks, and valleys. Endgame was such a monumental event in cinema history, and I'm talking about that's 10 years of story and world building. And you hit this, and Thanos has succeeded in eliminating half the universe, and then the Avengers are able to come back and reverse that. Now everything's fine and dandy, cool. But in dealing with the aftermath and introducing so many more new characters, you're now people are becoming numb. You know, okay, so who died, and that was the catalyst for you becoming this superhero? Or okay, so now you got hit by gamma rays, and now you're an offshoot of this particular character. Or what multiversal event happened, so now you've become this superhero. And don't get me wrong, I'm a comic book reader for life, so all this stuff to me is still gold. But for the peripheral, for the people who came out for Iron Man, for the first set of films, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and who were like, oh, this world is new to me. They're not diehards. They're not people who have sustained their entertainment by these characters. So now they're beginning to get worn out. Okay, so they saved the world again. After so many times saving the world, when it's no longer new. It's you better save the world instead of wow, you saved the world. So yeah, I think Endgame was that pinnacle, and now Marvel is recovering, and they're trying to simulate that big event. They're making Kang another Thanos type villain, where, don't get me wrong, Jonathan Majors is a great actor, a great performer, but how much bigger can you possibly make it? Now you're throwing so many characters and storylines at people, and they feel that everybody feels that you have to watch everything because everything is tied together. Well, that's a lot of viewing. That's a lot of TV. That's a lot of movies, and people are starting to become numb. It's just like, why do I want to continue watching this stuff when I'm going to get the same story just told a different way with different characters? So yeah, they Endgame was jumping the shark, and we're in a serious decline right now.
See, I'm of the thought, and Drew, jump in because you leave this to me and John. We'll be here all day. I know.
Yeah, y'all have a good conversation over there. I'm just sitting back. Matter of fact, y'all continue to have.
Oh wow! My man walked out the door.
Drew said, "I'm gonna go get a drink of tea. I'll be back in a second." No, but look, okay. Here's the thing. The blip, and see, this is where my mind is, John. I could tell you who the infield was of the 1986 Mets, and I have this discussion all the time with Roy because Roy is like this with movies and these. So we are the polar opposites. So like I could tell Roy. Roy is a Heat fan. I could tell Roy who the starting lineup was for the Heat back in X, Y, and Z years, right? Who played it. But when it gets to this world, my capacity to retain every minute detail is slim. So when I say if I'm wrong, jump in here. The blip, which is considered that moment when Thanos snapped his fingers. We know 5 years took place, right? 5 years. Yeah. I feel like Marvel hasn't done enough to tell us about that 5 years. And what it was like for people. We've gotten little hints here and there of what it was like for some and what it did. But I feel like and then everybody came back. And then it was like, okay, the story of everybody coming back really hasn't been fleshed out. But now we're moving on to alternate timelines. And I'm like, wait. Yeah, so that's what throws me off. And that's what worries me about where they're going with all this talk about timelines and all these different shows that are coming up. I can't keep track. I feel like I'm about to lose track.
So real quick, before I answer that question, Edwin Moore posted a comment, said the Bond films get away with it. Why does Marvel not get away with it? Because of Bond films, you have at least 2 or 3 years in between films. With Marvel, you got content coming out every 6 months. It's just like, but right after Endgame, you had Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Ant-Man, a new Ant-Man film. It's like they're bombarding you with stuff. And from a business standpoint, you got to make the buying public kind of want you for a little while. You give us a moment to miss you. You know what I'm saying? I know my wife loves me, but every now and again, she's going to want me to step into another room. So she has an opportunity to say, okay, John, come here. You know what I'm saying? It's that you don't want me under you all the time. And Marvel's like that little annoying sibling that's always tapping at your ankles. Hey, come spend some money. Come watch this superhero save the world again. Or, hey, here's some more money. Come watch this superhero. So, yeah, Marvel. And again, for me, I'm cool with it to an extent, because I've grown up watching these characters and wanting to see them on screen. But for the general public, they're just like, man, just chill. We see you. We know you out there saving the world. Thank you very much. Give me something else. So concerning the blip, and I saw Drew, when you started talking about it, Drew started smiling and giggling. Like, yeah, man, they call it the blip. But that 5-year span, I think that with that 5-year span, Marvel has given us a little bit of what it was like, but I agree with you. If I was a supervillain and I discovered that there was half the superheroes were gone, I'm going to town. I'm robbing every bank. I'm knocking over every gas station, liquor store, whatever. I'm living the life, because half the heroes are gone. I ain't got to worry about y'all. Not only are half the heroes are gone, half of my competition is gone. So now I'm a supervillain on the loose. Why am I not trying to successfully take over the world? So, and you've got the Avengers who are all in mourning and they're all sad because half their members are gone. Okay, and they're too busy looking for Thanos. So who's to say somebody wasn't trying to take over something during the blip? You're right. I agree. They just kind of glazed over that and didn't really give us an in-depth look of that 5-year gap where half of the world was just gone. They touched on it in Endgame, but they never really dove knee-deep into it. So I agree that would have been something for us to see in that however long was it, a 6-month span between films, a year?
Yeah.
That would have been, so if I was the head of Marvel, that 6-month span, along with developing everything else that's going to happen after, I would have been like, okay, well, let's kind of explore how the world was shaped with half the population gone, or half of all of existence having gone. Because, you know, they were talking about more whales coming into the ocean or something because there weren't as many ships killing them or hunting them. So yeah, let's explore that. Let's look at that. I agree. But let me ask you something, Brian. Let me ask you something, Brian. What is your opinion of the DC films?
You know, it's good we transition to that because I actually watched Black Adam. Actually liked it, and I went back. See, you know, I know there's the changes going on in the DC version, and so I think the problem with DC is they have so many TV shows. See, DC has the TV shows that are running on the CW, and I think because of that, it clouds what they're trying to do with the movies. So it's like when these movies come out, I feel like they're separate from the TV shows. It's like the TV show. So there's that balancing act, which I think the movie side has sort of failed in a bit. But I like, you know, where they were going. Now I know I haven't seen The Flash yet. That's on my objective. Hopefully this week I can go see it. But to my knowledge, that you said, you got. I have to, out of loyalty, I have to go see it. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those. I just have to go see it.
That's
if
to
it's
save
bad,
your money. Netflix.
See, that's why you get movie. That's why you get movie passes. See, you get the movie membership, and I'm already paying $20-something a month, so I might as well go get a free ticket, right? But I am kind of waiting to see what they do. Like I thought, I don't know. It's honestly, John, as stumbling around as I am and talking about DC, that's what I feel like they've done. They fumbled the bag really with what they're doing. They really have. They fumbled it because I feel like they had a thing going where, you know, you had your Superman, you had your Batman, you had Wonder Woman. You had the Justice League was starting to come together, and I feel like they're about to mess that up. Like I don't understand why you bring Shazam into, like, bringing Shazam, the movie was kind of like, why bring Shazam into this? What is Shazam going to be part of the Justice League? Where's Green Lantern in all this? I'm just mad that. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I had you. You were on a roll. See, the reason I'm laughing is because on our show, Grumpy on Earth, Wednesdays at 8:30, 7:30 Central. The reason that one of the things that we do, we'll get on a rant talking about DC, and it just goes downhill because they've mismanaged it in such a big way. You know, you can tell that comic book people and comic book readers are in charge at Marvel, whereas suits and corporate types are in charge at DC. Because Marvel, no matter how you may feel about Marvel and lately their films and the quality of their films, it's a tightly woven story. And everybody's talking to each other. You can tell that that's writer's room, is everybody talking to each other saying, okay, we want this character to go on a trajectory. This character will intersect. These two characters will never cross paths, and this character will come back in another way. Meanwhile, DC has Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, three of the, if you're talking about, if you're talking about a modern day Greek mythology, those three sit on Mount Olympus right now, and I'm probably mixing this up. But those three sit on top, probably three of the most popular superhero characters in media. Yes, in media, and they're misusing them. Like Henry Cavill, for me, my Superman was Christopher Reeve, because that was the first Superman. That was one of the first true superhero films back in the day. So yes, Christopher Reeve is my Superman, and John Williams' score is my Superman score. I mean, now I'm really showing my nerddom. But I understand this generation, their Superman is Henry Cavill. Why would you change that? Why are you trying to find another You have your Superman. Batman is a whole nother story. Now, you've had many a Batman through the millennia. And
every Batman movie is a different person. It seems like.
Yeah, it's like, okay, first we had to get used to Michael Keaton. Now, mind you, when Michael Keaton was announced, everybody was like, "Are you nuts? Why would you have him as Batman?" Now he's synonymous with the character. Then you had George Clooney. Then you had Val Kilmer. Now you got Robert Pattinson. It's like, who is a definitive Batman? What Marvel did was they got actors who you define these actors as these superheroes. When I read a comic book, if I'm reading an Iron Man story, I have Robert Downey Jr. reciting those words in my head. If I'm reading a comic book and I have Captain America, I hear Chris Evans in my head. Those characters are synonymous with those actors. With DC, who's who? Gal Gadot, if I'm saying her name correctly, she's Wonder Woman. That's fine. I think they're trying to replace her. It just doesn't make any sense what DC is doing.
Yes, I heard that.
And
that makes sense.
And there's no connectivity. There's no connectivity between the universes. You've got the CW universe. You've got the film universe. Now you've got Elseworlds universes where you have a Joker who's off doing his thing in another timeline, and you've got Batman who's off doing stuff outside of the Justice League Zack Snyder verse, which don't get me started with that nonsense. So it's just like DC has these characters. Oh, and I would be remiss if I did not mention DC has a stable of characters of color under the Milestone Comics banner. When Black Panther came out, that showed that you can have a black superhero and will show up. We came out for Black Panther in droves. And even when brother passed away and they had to bring us a new Black Panther, we still came out in droves to see a Black Panther film. DC has a stable. Now, and at the head of that class is Static. Why did they not give us a Static film? Why do we not have a Hardware film? Why do we not have an Icon film? You've got these black characters developed by Dwayne McDuffie who are powerful, diverse, and you're sitting on them, literally. They're not being used at all. Why? What has happened? And forgive me for yelling. I got real aggressive.
You just literally, after I've been waiting 30 minutes to try to get a question in, you did already answer the question that I was getting ready to ask you. It was about the black superheroes. I mean, you Black Panther, you got Luke Cage, you got Storm, but after that, you can't name too many of them. And when I say you can, I can't, because I'm, and the reason I say that because I'm the lay comic fan. Right, I'm not the nerd like you
I got you.
So yeah, what's up with that, man?
There are black characters out there, and my issue with DC, this is my biggest issue with DC right now. You have, when they did the Justice League film, instead of, everybody loves the Justice League cartoon, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. The black character there was Green Lantern, John Stewart. Now, a lot of people who grew up with that cartoon don't know that the original Green Lantern was a character named Hal Jordan, a white dude. So so any other time they see a Green Lantern as Hal Jordan, they're like, hold on, why we ain't got John Stewart out there? That's because John Stewart isn't the original Green Lantern, which I think is hilarious. Now, having said that, why was John Stewart not in the Justice League film? They gave us Cyborg, who was a black character, but he was with the Teen Titans. Why would you take one character, put him somewhere, and switch it like that? That just doesn't make logical sense. You've got a built-in fan base. Literally, there are people who are clamoring, for black characters, and you don't put them out. That doesn't make any sense to me. And Marvel showed you there's bankability with black characters, black superheroes. Hell, we've got the Little Mermaid, where Ariel, there are videos of little black girls weeping, watching Ariel, a commercial showing the black actress as a Little Mermaid. Why DC? Why instead of a black character, you give us Shazam? Who wants to see that? Why? Who wants to see Shazam? What? Do people even understand what Shazam is or what it's about? Why? Give us Static. Static had a cartoon. Static Shock was a popular cartoon back in the early 2000s.
I remember that.
Why? Why is Static not on our screens right now? And I'll give you another thing. Spider-Man, Miles Morales is the hot new Spider-Man right now, an Afro-Latino teenage boy. DC, you have that. Yep. You have Static. Put him out there. People will die. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I believe, is the top grossing comic book film right now, even though it's animated. DC, you have the blueprint. Go ahead, baby, what you waiting on? So yeah, end of my rant. I'm sorry.
Jeremiah Clark has a question from off of our YouTube. Can you ask him if folks are into those type movies, just try to relive their childhood? I'm just curious. Thanks.
The answer to that is a resounding yes. Okay, yeah, I mean, like, for real. You've got the kids who, again, nerddom is cool now, who are watching it and enjoying it. But for us old heads who grew up with this stuff, yeah, this is me on Saturday mornings watching, sitting in front of the TV, watching Super Friends and reading comic books, and eating cereal. This is my childhood. This is lit, and that's why I'm passionate about it, because I can see if it's done right how it can be sustained. But because they're more worried about money and just because of mismanagement, they're running this into the ground. And the comic book art form has been around since the 40s and 50s. There are so much material, so many characters that you can use and put out there if they're used correctly. Extension of your childhood. Yes, Edwin, more exactly. So why are you these are people who are not comic book fans. Like Marvel, DC, please, I'm willing to work for a tenth of what Kevin Feige is making for James Gunn. Please hire me, because I will steer you in the right direction. I will not steer you wrong.
All right.
Hey, John, before we hold on. Well, go ahead, Drew. Go ahead. You got a question. I know
I think we both get ready to do the same thing. We was both seems like we're getting ready to close this out a little bit. I just want you to tell us about this Urban Nerd Con that's going to be going on in Atlanta next month. And when you're telling it about it, I need you to tell it from, well, I really don't have to worry about you telling it from a Black point of view, but I need you to tell it from a Black point of view to a sports audience, since that's the normal audience that kicks in to us, not only for them, but their kids, their grandkids, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, got you. Okay, so Black point of view first, because I'm always Black and that'll never change. When I was a kid growing up and I attended my very first comic convention, which is a Comic-Con, I was one of maybe three, out of these thousands of people, I was one of maybe three kids of color in the audience. And it was, although I was excited to be there, I felt excluded. I felt like alone. And the reason that we're doing the Urban Nerd Con is because for all the kids, all the adults who have felt alone in their nerddom, this is for us. This is about fans of color. This is about creators of color. This is about content of color. We want to make sure that we're represented. And just like I was saying with DC, we want to be represented, and we're willing to go out and enjoy each other's company, hang out, and do what we do. That's the you can get your tickets at the urbannerdcon.net. Thank you, Roy. And just go out and have a good time. It's a safe space, cosplay, buying comics, buying memorabilia, buying merchandise. It's just an event where everybody can come in, and it's not just Black people, anybody can come, but we're specifically looking for that audience of people of color.
Speaking of, John, hold up.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you can see these posters I've got right here on the wall.
I can, but I'm sorry, I got my glasses on.
I got these at the Nerd Con last year. A couple of
nice
posters I got right here at the wall, man. I got a couple.
Let's go. Nice. Yes, Tuskegee Airs. Yes, Tuskegee Airs. One of the, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the brothers who created that book will be at the Nerd Con as well. But in terms of sports,
so I got a little nerd in me, Brian.
but for the sports audience, this is the GOAT. This is the greatest. This is for, and I feel that this is the GOAT because this is for us. This is for creators, fans of color to come in and intermingle. And again, it's not just for us, but it's about us and it's for us. And everybody is welcome. Everybody can come. July 21st to 23rd here in Atlanta. It was the Sheraton. I'm not sure what the hotel is called now. And if you stay at the host hotel, you'll get one free pass to the con as well. So it's also a deal. And we have so many guests lined up. We're having cosplay events. We're having gaming events. Just something for everybody. And I'm super excited to be a part of this.
Yeah, I told Roy I'm looking forward to being there. It'll be Drew. It'll be that nice in between a couple of media days. I know there's some sports media days happening around that same time. I'm looking at hitting some sports media days, then being in Atlanta for this, and then back off on the road again to another sports media day. So I'm looking forward to that.
And we will be broadcasting, Grumpy Old Nerds will be broadcasting live. And oh my God, we're going to have as my grandmother used to say, we're going to have a time. We're going to have a time. We're going to have a time.
That's gonna be a good live shows, live couple of shows that you guys are gonna get a chance to do. We gotta make. We'll talk about that offline. We gotta make sure we get the right kind of hype person in there to kind of do that right for you guys.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
before you go, John, give people a couple of movies this summer. Whether it's already happened or maybe something to look out for, some recommendations. You know, I'm a big fan of the old school Siskel and Ebert. So, either something that you've watched or something that you would recommend that they watch when it hits the theater.
Well, I will recommend Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That film is phenomenal. The amount of effort that they went into making that film and the animation in and of itself, it's a treat visually and it's a treat story-wise as well. I'm gonna say a lot of times with these films, the exposition will put you to sleep. It's all about the action. Even the exposition in this film is fantastic. When characters are just talking, you're glued to the screen like this. It is that movie. That movie is the movie of the summer for me so far. I'm looking forward to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Harrison Ford is 80 years old now. Again, old school, man. I went and saw Raiders of the Lost Ark with my father. And this is one of those reliving my childhood moments. When the boulder is rolling down, chasing him out of the cave, all I heard was my father screaming, "Run, Indiana, run!" And that tickled the hell out of me. So, and my father was nowhere close to being like a nerd like that. And just the fact that he dug Raiders of the Lost Ark, I was like, okay, every Indiana Jones that comes out, I have to see in the theater just because of that. I hesitate to say this, but I'm severely disappointed in The Flash. DC fumbled the bag again, and yeah. I'm sorry. I can't do it. If you want to see it, please go see it. Maybe it's just me, but one thing that they're doing wrong with these superhero films now is everything has to be a joke. There can't be a scene that's just serious. Everything has to be, the best part of The Flash is the last third of the film because they stop trying to make you laugh and tell a story.
Okay.
And I think that when you're not confident in a property, you're not confident in a project, you'll try and throw a joke in there to distract us. And the first 2/3 of the film are them trying to distract us. When the last third of the film, when they get to the heart of the story, is the best part of that film. So, buyer beware. If you go see Fast 10, you just don't care about the real world. You just like, I just want to see cars.
I don't. It's like why I went to go see every Harry Potter, and I never read the books, but just because I dug it, I was like, it's pretty cool, and I just found a little nerd friend to go watch it. I didn't tell nobody I was going, didn't tweet about it, didn't Instagram it. I went to go watch all 7 or 8 or however many there were. I went to go see all of them in order. I did not dress up though. Did not dress up, so I kept.
You go dress when you go to the nerd con, Bryan?
No, but
I just asked Bryan, was he
go
dress when he went to the nerd con? And I will be honest with you, Bryan. I went to the one last year. I mean, I was in some nice, decent street clothes, and bruh, I felt totally out of place. I did not have on some type of costume.
Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of vibe. You come in.
I really felt. Yeah. Wait a minute. I felt like you did trying to go join that club that you was trying to join in high school. Yes. I felt like that kid because I was dressed like anybody else on the street, not dressed for a Comic-Con.
Oh, and one more thing that I'm looking forward to, and I have to say this because I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. The first Black Doctor will be this year, and I am over the moon. I've been watching. So for those of you who don't know, Doctor Who is a story of a time traveler who regenerates. When that's how they came up with the idea of when the actor is done portraying this or gets tired of portraying this character, they regenerate, which means they become another person, which is why this show has been able to be on for 50 years. And the first African-American male, not African-American because he's from England, but the first Black male will be the Doctor this year, and I am so excited for that. My nerd flag is flying right now.
See, you just went like to the what they call it, Drew. He went to the next level, whatever they call it in the Masons. You just went to the next level of nerddom, the nth degree of nerddom that I am not there yet. I want to get down with Doctor Who, but now I know why, because what you just said, mind blown. I can't even do it. I can't do it.
But look, right. It's a black man and it's a Black queer male, and the gatekeepers are losing their minds over this. So I am so excited for this. But I'm sorry, fellas. I just want to say thank you so very much for having me on tonight. It's been a pleasure. Once again, we cousins on this JBN network, so we gotta. I need to have y'all on the show one day. Am I getting a commitment to have Uncle AD and Uncle Bryan on the show?
I'm
definitely get Uncle Bryan. I don't know what I can bring to the show, but if asked, I will be there.
Okay, well, let's do that. Oh, because if you'll be at the NerdCon, you can be on our show.
I'm there for that. I'm there for the live show. I will be. Look, we normally do a show at the same time, so I will be there for the live show. I'm down. Whatever. I'm down. Whatever I can. Whatever I can give to the collection plate, I'm there. I'm there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, folks, appreciate you nerding out with us, John. I appreciate it, man. And Wednesdays, 8:30 right here on the JBN network, Jericho Broadcast Networks, youtube.com/MyJBN1. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. You can always watch it. For those of you who don't like listening to FAMU folks talk about FAMU Rattlers all day, you can tune over and catch Grumpy Old Nerds right here on the Jericho Broadcast Network. So with that said, we will take a short break, come back and get back to sports, because I know some of y'all tuned in for sports, but it's summertime and it's just going to be off the rails in a different way. So appreciate you, John. We'll holler.
Thanks, fellas. Take it easy.
All right.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton, Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap live here on Monday. And if you hung out with us in our last segment, you obviously we weren't talking sports, so we appreciate Uncle John for jumping in with us and nerding out, trying to do something a little bit different. It's we could talk about APRs and we got plenty of time to talk about preseason rankings, conference order, best QB, best returners, what JSU did last night, all that other stuff, look, and see, Jeremiah, that's the kind of bullying we're talking about, Drew. See, that's inadvertent bullying, Jeremiah. I'm not afraid to dress up. I won't be dressing up, though. Now, look, I'll be honest. I thought about the question, and I said, it has to be tasteful. So if I'm dressing up, I'm a big guy here, okay? You can tell by the shoulders. If you met me in person, I'm a big guy. So first off, you're not going to catch me in no Superman, Batman, anything where there's tight and small. I've got to either be in something like Hulk. I had to, if I get a chance to be hulked out, okay. Or the Thing, now the Thing, that's that's a big character. That's a big guy. That's about the extent of it. I can't think of too many other big characters that I could be, so I gotta keep it on the real, so yeah, I won't be dressed up as a wizard or a vampire. Now, Drew, there's only one thing that can get me to dress up like that. Now, the same day some of y'all be walking around the mall talking about Thing 2 and Thing 1 and all that other stuff. There's only one way that I can be dressed up and won't be ashamed, as if if there's some eye candy on my arm that wants to. If I lose a bet, yes, that's one way. If I lose a bet, or I got some eye candy that's you know what I'm saying, that's like, hey, you need to be dressed up like this. Okay, baby, sure, I'll get you. Anyway. I just thought I'd put that out there. So, Jeremiah, just know Brian, if you see me dressed up,
so if you're gonna be in Atlanta, Brian's gonna need a date. So If you,
hey, I'm willing to roll. Anybody? Hey, yeah, exactly. Hey, ladies, you want to go and cosplay? I'll escort you. I have no shame. I will escort you, and I'll throw on a costume.
Hey, Brian,
if you want to
you
go,
might hook them up with a pass to get in.
Might hook them up with a pet. Look at that, Drew. I go as R2D2 now. I'm just kidding. I ain't going into R2D2. That's ridiculous. But anyway, if she's Princess Leia, I'm just saying, Drew. I will. Anyway. But hey, all right. So let's go over to what's that? I knew that was Ryan's Angel on Dressing Nerd. What? Anyway, okay. So for the stick to sports crowd out there, the Denver Nuggets won the NBA World Championship, for those who don't know, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights won the NHL championship. So there you go. But no,
right. Which of those do we consider a gentleman's sweep? Or do we consider?
Okay, so this was a great. Okay, we were having this discussion. Well, you and I were doing this, weren't we? About the gentleman's sweep. What do we classify the gentleman? Okay, so we felt like there has to be consecutive wins, like 3 consecutive wins that have to take place in order for there to be a gentleman's sweep. So
for me,
hold on, let me ask this question. Did the Vegas, which game did Florida win against Vegas? Was it game 3 or 4?
Hold on.
I think it was game 4.
Right now. Vegas won 4-1.
I know in
okay. Vegas won 4-1.
So the question that
Florida won game 3 of that series. So I would consider the Vegas win over Florida a gentleman's sweep. I would not consider the Nuggets win over the Heat a gentleman's sweep. And for me, my difference is for it to be considered a gentleman's sweep, the series could have never had been tied, which means that
that's what it was. Yes, that was the criteria.
In the Miami Denver series, it was tied at 1-1. Right. So the series was tied.
And think about this, Drew. When
and
it was
the
tied
other
up
way
at 1-1,
that could be.
Hold on. When it was tied up at 1-1, think about this. When it was tied up at 1-1, there were people who actually thought the Heat had a chance of winning.
Exactly.
Soak that in. Go ahead. What you were saying.
Either the team that lost had to be up 1-0 and then lose the next 4, or you had 1-1 with the winning team winning the next 3, which is what happened in the Denver-Miami series versus the Florida-Las Vegas series, where Vegas went up 2-0, Florida got 1, and then Vegas brought it home. That's a gentleman's sweep. The only other way you have a gentleman's sweep would obviously be going up 3-0, losing game 4, and then coming back and winning game 5.
I'm going to respond to that question right here from Edwin. Talk about, is it weird that hockey champions are from warm, hot climates? It would be if only for the fact, Edwin, that they're finishing the series in June, in the summer. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if hockey finished its season in the winter, April, or even right before, or April, you know what I'm saying? I would think that'd be great, because maybe you might catch a little snow in a cold climate city. But damn, they're playing it in June, in July. So cats are going to the stadium or the arena in shorts. You got a hockey sweater on, but you're probably wearing shorts when you're in there. I don't even think about it anymore. The fact that a Florida team in Vegas in 2 hot climates, Who knows? I don't think
When
it'll
is the
ever will it
last
ever
time
be
a Canadian
expected.
team won?
That's what, if anybody should be upset, that's who should be upset. Canadians, talking about when will we ever get back into the Stanley Cup final. But anyway, so now we've added in some hockey into this show. This lets you know, guys, we are those guys. We are, after doing this for so long, we can let our guard down and we can talk about other things. But back to some HBCU sports. Drew just let me know, and I don't know if this is breaking news, Drew, so we'll call it as such, but just found out that Drew is going to be writing for a second year with D2Football.com. So for the SIAC. Congrats, Drew.
Yeah, just confirmed this about a week ago that I'll be invited back to cover another season of SIAC football for D2Football.com. And that coverage will begin right here on the Black College Sports Network when we cover the SIAC Media Day, which will be held July 12th, right there in Atlanta, Georgia, Brian. So I'll be playing the dual role during that broadcast.
So with all of your duties and all the things that you do now, those who don't know, Drew is a sports information director for a Division II school, correct? Or you guys moved from NAIA?
NAIA school.
Okay, so for Drew
a non-HBCU information director. NAIA school.
I look, I didn't. I'm just pointing out, that you were.
I don't want people to think I'm talking about other HBCUs while I'm working for HBCU. That's why I emphasize that.
Well, okay, that's a good point. But I mean, you're the NAIA. If you're NAIA school, it's completely different than the D2. You're talking about D2 institutions, right? And the SIC, and you're at an NAIA school. But anyway, so it's good that you'll be able to cover them, and as always, you do a great job of spotlighting what we call the non-Division I segment of HBCU sports. So
yeah, the big difference this year because of those duties as director of athletic communications is that I will not be attending most of the games live like I have in the past. I'm going to be relying on Black College Sports Network, which is kind of good because Black College Sports Network has about half of the SIAC under contract. So that helps that I'll have access to a lot of the games just directly off of our server before I have to go out and search the games. But a lot of it, unless it's a Thursday night game or something like that, a lot of it is going to be off of video this year. So I know how I'll be spending a lot of my Sundays, Brian.
Well said. All right. So the other one of the other big stories that has been circulating over the past week has to do with last week's release by USA Today of their annual report regarding revenue and expenses for 232 NCAA Division I athletic programs, which did include, I believe, did it include all? I don't want to say all because I know we have some private institutions amongst the 21 Division I HBCUs.
Yeah, it included all but the private. No, the private schools, that would be no Bethune, no Hampton,
17,
no Howard. I believe those were the three that are left off of the most of the data that was 18. Reported in the USA Today.
Okay, so 18 schools that were a part of that. And so if anybody saw that, report, and there were various, whether it be HBCU Game Day, HBCU Sports, those of you who follow Hero Sports, those of you who like following all the things amongst the FCS schools, there was a lot of analysis into looking at this. And this is where, if you're a numbers person and you like to like to draw the parallels between numbers, revenues, meaning that's, money that's coming in, expenses, that means money that's going out. And then also in this report, the allocated funds, which is, as it's defined here, and just to give a good roundabout understanding for people who aren't aware, the allocations are basically, I read a great summary. How much
I will give you the definition.
Revenue? Hold on, I got it right here, Drew. Let me finish, and then you tell me if this is different than what I'm tell me if this is different than what I'm reading. So, allocation is how much the school's revenue is coming from government and institutional support and student fees. Now, that's what I'm reading. What is your definition?
Yeah, that's the definition. But if you actually go to the Knight Commission, Knight Newton College Athletics database, which is where these numbers came from.
Who? Because hold on, stop. The Knight Commission is who? Because I want to be clear about that, because they're not mentioned as part of this USA Today article, but they are who?
They are.
Are you still hearing me, Drew?
Yes. Yeah, they are basically a group. It's out of Syracuse University, Newhouse School of based out of Syracuse University, and they compile and analyze a bunch of data across all of the NCAA athletic programs on the Division I level. That's FBS, FCS, and those institutions who do not play football, who are just straight D1.
Okay. So one of the things that USA Today has done, USA Today has managed to keep a running chart, so to speak, an online, what's the better way of saying this, Drew? Maybe an online database, which, is under a section called NCAA Finances. And, it'll show you who's spending and who's making the most. For example, top of the food chain is The Ohio State University, right? With a total revenue of, $251,615,000, right? That's revenue, with expenses in the ballpark of $225 million. So they're clearing. If you take revenue minus expenses, they're bringing home a positive $25 million. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
That's what they are listed at the top of the food chain. Not an SEC school, but a Big Ten school. Followed up by number 2 on this list in terms of total revenue, a Big 12 school who will soon be an SEC school, Texas. So all that said, how does that relate to our HBCUs, right? So I'm just going to kind of read from a good summary article here from HBCU Sports. As it relates to the HBCU schools, In terms of total revenue, Southern led the way with just over 18 million. North Carolina A&T followed that with about 16.3 million. Delaware State bringing in 16.2 million. Norfolk State bringing in 15.9 million, and Tennessee State with 15.8. Notice there were no SWAC schools in that, or excuse me, outside of Southern. Yeah, so I don't understand. Yeah, they wrote this article. I guess they must not have thought Southern wasn't a SWAC institution. It said the leading SWAC institution was Alabama State, which brought in 14.5, but we just said that Southern was number one. Anyway, so that's just a summary of the top five. Now, amongst the FCS, Drew, this is what is fascinating, and this is where I think a lot of people start having these conversations. You start looking at this bubble of HBCU schools, which among the 232, Drew, where was the first HBCU? So Southern popped up at what number among the 232? A quick find here. Southern comes up as...
Southern's below the median.
Southern University. Well, I just saw it here. I thought I saw it. 163. So ranked 163rd amongst all Division I programs. That's that 18.1 million that you saw Southern in. So once we start moving into the lower half, that's where you start seeing the FCS schools.
Correct.
And so a lot of us, really per your institution, you start head scratching here. And there's a lot of different things that you can look at when this report comes out. Like, for example, you can start with the top FCS schools. I think what's really important to think about is whenever you start comparing HBCUs with non-HBCUs, the first thing I go to or went to, Drew, is the attendance numbers or the enrollment, not attendance, but enrollment. Because a lot of these FCS schools, like just among the FCS schools, a lot of them have allocation numbers, right? A lot of them are pulling student fees, student activity fees, which are going into the revenue budget. Yeah. For example,
Correct.
Who was the leader in FCS schools? The leader in FCS school was, I believe, UC Davis, I thought, right?
I believe so.
UC Davis was the lead. Yes. I remember because I looked it up. That's why I thought you might have seen it too. UC Davis. Okay, so let me we'll do a quick find here. Davis, California Davis, as they're known, part of the Big West, has a revenue of $44.2 million, right? 80% of their money comes from allocated funds. So that's either student fees or other government, assisted funds. Yeah. 30, that's 80% of the money. They have an enrollment, Drew, of 31,000 as of 2021 or 22. They've got 31,000 students.
All these
now,
are through 20 for the 21-22 season that are in that report.
Well, yeah, but I'm just telling you about the numbers. I couldn't find the actual current enrollment, but their most recent enrollment numbers from 2021. So what I'm trying to say is Cal Davis has probably a minimum 30,000 students. So you take $30,000, and I don't know what student activity fees are, but I mean, 30,000. You add, add some numbers to it, whatever you might pay. If you're paying $1,000 in student fees,
I hope you're not paying.
Isn't that close to $30 million?
I hope you're not paying that much in student
I don't know.
fees.
Well,
that is California.
Look, California, everything's expensive in California. Yeah, exactly. It is California. So
speaking of student fees, Brian, let's define what counts as student fees. And those are fees paid by the student and allocated for the restricted use of the athletic department. Because there was always that dreaded activity fee that we had on our bill. Even if you had a scholarship, it didn't cover the activity fee. Now, 100% of that activity fee does not go to athletics. There's a certain portion of that. A majority of it goes towards athletics, but some of that activity fee goes to some other places on campus. So those of you all who get that bill and that whatever the amount that is, that's not covered by scholarship for activity fee, a majority of that goes to athletics, but not all. Also, Brian, another number that you mentioned was institutional and government support. That is revenue received from governments, direct funds from the institution for athletic operations, and costs covered by services provided by the institution to athletics, and for athletic debt, but not charged to athletics. Definitely need to get those definitions out there, Brian. And the key number, Brian, is 68.55. You looked at some of those numbers on the student fees, institutional government support line. That the median number is 68.55. So 69% is what the average FCS school uses to allocate funds for its athletic department. So when we start going through these numbers and looking at that number, anything above 69 is above the curve.
Okay. I wanted to take a second while you were talking about student fees, and since Southern was the leader in terms of revenue, I'm looking at 2023 spring schedule of fees for students at Southern University from this past spring, right? Now, this is, and you got to be, there are different levels to this. Like they have fees for if you are an online student, if you're an on-campus student, so on and so forth, right?
Correct.
So,
and that's one thing that's hurt a lot of these institutions, because you can't charge an online student the same activity fee that you charge a face-to-face student.
No, you sure can't. You sure can't. Okay, so here is the breakdown for Southern University. Now, this is for the effective spring semester 2023, right? So I'm looking here in total now for a full-time student. Let's see. Full-time student. There's an athletic fee, which regardless of if you are an undergrad, 12 hours and above, grad student, 12 hours and above.
What grad student?
Graduate of 11 hours. Grad student of 11 hours. Well, I'm just breaking down. They have 3 different categories for grad student.
Yeah.
Well, look, they've got a 12 hours and above. They've got 11 hours, 10 hours, and 9 hours. Maybe that's based on labs. I don't know. But
probably.
For the semester, your effective spring fee, athletic fee, is $245. The athletic fee. Now, this is a heck of a breakdown. Now, there's all kinds of other fees in here. You pay a small fee for there's even I don't know, even if you're not a cheerleader, $2, you pay $2 if someone ever wanted to go through and say, what is this fee for, and ask the questions, it'd be an interesting discovery. But there are things that are allocated in this, like lest you think sports is the only thing that gets any money. It's not. I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just going to say that. But it is the most expensive fee next to your access fee to ebook courses and materials and your university support fee. So if you did a full breakdown at Southern University for the semester, out of the, let me see, where's the total? Out of the $4,951 that a student a 12-hour student would pay, $245 is going towards athletics.
And that's what allows the students to get into the games for free and stuff like that.
For free. Yes. So you do the math, take that 245. Now these numbers are based on a whole year. I don't know for sure, but I think if you take that 245
times 2,
multiply it by 2 for the full year, 2 semesters, fall and spring,
490,
and then take that 490 times Southern's got about 7,000 students. You do the math, do the next level of math on that, and then see where you come up with.
500 times 7,000 is 35.
3.5 million, probably.
3.5, yeah, that's 3.5. I'm trying to put how many zeros behind it.
See, I was throwing it out there because I knew it couldn't. Hold on, you know why I came up with that? Because I knew it couldn't be 35 million, so I just went 3.5.
No, I was trying to do 35, and I was trying to count the zeros behind it.
Yeah, I know you were. That's why I did it the way. Like I said, I just figured there's no way it's 35 million because that number would have. It would have. You knew it couldn't be 35, so it had to be 3.5. But anyway, all right. So in all of this, Drew, because you did some breakdowns, some great stuff. What were just some of your takeaways and thoughts as you looked at some of these numbers that came out?
Interested that, Brian, and I'd rather just kind of start going through some of these slides and talking through them versus just explaining, because they won't make sense if I just talk you through them, Brian. You got to see some of this stuff to believe what I've discovered. And like I said, I took a deeper dive inside of the numbers. We saw the report that came out earlier with the ticket sales, Brian. As you saw, Jackson State was number 1 in ticket sales, followed by
hold on,
this is the SWAC.
Go, but hold on, stop for a second. That wasn't nobody was talking about ticket sales initially. That didn't come out as part of this initial analysis.
It can't. So, but this number is actually inside of the report that was the basis for what you saw the USA Today. Yes, in the revenues.
The revenue. Okay, that's what I wanted you to say, because the initial articles and all of the reviews that everybody had was just about the general numbers. Not too many people were digging inside of the numbers. So that's what I wanted to bring out. But okay, so go back to SWAC ticket sales.
Yes. This is by institution. Bethune did not report a number, as we said. All the private schools did not report a number, even though it looks like FAMU is zero. Brian, they did actually report a number.
Okay, where do you get that number from?
It is $1,624 is what FAMU reported their ticket sales.
Where do you get that? Who reported that? Where do you see that?
That's inside.
Explain.
That's inside the numbers of the night commission. When you dig inside the numbers and the actual revenue breakdown, it gives you different categories of the revenue. The numbers for the revenue, as you said, student fees, institutional and government support, ticket sales, distributions. Now, those distributions are the numbers that is money that comes from the NCAA, your conference, media right, and postseason football, i.e., bowls. And for us, in this case, would be the Celebration Bowl and or FCS playoffs for us on this level.
FAMU.
Well, let me finish.
I'm sorry,
giving
go
you
ahead.
the breakdowns of revenue. Game guarantees goes into your revenue numbers. Donor contributions. Now, donor contributions is tricky, Brian. These are funds contributed from individuals, corporations, or association, or foundations, clubs, or other organizations external to the athletics program above the face value of tickets. This is not money donated directly to the institution, Brian. This is money donated strictly to the athletic program, straight to the athletic program. And we're gonna get to that. Yes, you are right, Edward Moore. SWAC championship would go up under the conference distribution tab. Edward, good. Thanks for bringing that out to me.
So then explain again why. I'm sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Explain to you again why what, Brian?
Well, we started. You put up the slide that said ticket sales, and so now I'm going to badger you about why you don't have FAMU's ticket sales numbers on there.
Because that's what it's so minor that it doesn't show up on the graph. Because when you have a Jackson State at
it's $1.8 million.
No. FAMU,
it's $1.8 million. What you talking about?
They reported
ticket sales $1.8 million.
FAMU reported $1,624 in this report, Brian.
What are you looking? Okay, Drew. This is where I'm looking at the report, and this is what's good about the database. The database lets you go into the school. When you click on the link for the school, it shows you the total revenue, and right next to it, it shows you ticket sales. It says 1,822,630. That's $1.8 million.
That's not the number reported to the night commission.
I have no idea what the night commission is looking at then. So there's a discrepancy then between the night and the USA Today. It can't be, Drew.
What is that number,
looking at
Brian?
the same thing.
Give it that number, Brian.
1.82630. 1,822,630. That's what's in the database from USA Today.
Okay.
So I mean, like I said, that's why I'm trying to clarify, because if you say FAMU's ticket sales were only 1,000, I'm going to catch hell, and we're going to hear all about it, because I know that's not right. I know there's not 1,000.
I'll show that to you after the report. But that puts FAMU at a solid number 3 in ticket sales, if that number that you gave me is accurate there, Brian.
Now, here's where you know where I know what a 1,624 is, Drew? The 2021 year.
2021. Correct, Brian. This is 21-22 numbers that I'm looking for. Look at that.
Oh, well, you didn't. Shit. Excuse you didn't tell me
These
that.
are
I'm
all
sitting here arguing.
These are all 21, 22 numbers.
Okay. So
In this
fall.
report.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So okay. Yeah. All right. So thanks for clarifying. My bad.
Okay.
I'm looking at the 22, 23. What's reported in here. So go ahead. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Yeah. These are the 21, 22 numbers. And we're starting here for a reason. You can look at the B Act. Now notice the scale on the B Act. Your top earner is South Carolina State with 600,000. Remember, this is the year South Carolina State won the Celebration Bowl. And of course, you got your two independent schools out there. Here's the interesting number, Brian. Ticket sales as a percent of your total revenue. We saw that total revenue number, Brian. 38% of Jackson State's revenue comes from their ticket sales. Southern.
Okay.
Southern comes in at 11, just under 12%, 11.74%. So just to show where the average for FCS, Brian, is 5%. 5% of the revenue for average FCS school. 5% of the revenue comes from ticket sales. So what does this say about Jackson State? Is Jackson State relying too much on ticket sales? Or is Jackson State just that good where they don't have to worry about generating revenue from other spots because their fans are that supportive of their team and pack out the stadium? We know they have the largest stadium in FCS. What do you think about that, Brian?
I want to compare it to other institutions that bring in large numbers. I don't think you can rely enough on ticket sales. I mean, when you have the access to the kind of stadium that they have, I expect them to have numbers like this. I think so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, and plus the stadium. Well, I'll just leave it at that. I won't get into talk about the stadium because I don't know. I from my understanding is they own the stadium. They lease it. They rent it. But I don't, like I said, I don't know all the details about the stadium deal with Jackson State, so I could be off. But let's just say, back to your original question, I don't think you're relying too much. Sure, you should be bringing in a significant amount from your ticket sales, especially when you have the kind of draw that they had.
Correct. Looking at your BI
now,
numbers.
the question is,
go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, you bring up 1 year, I would look over the course of a 5 to 10 year period. That's where you asked me that question, and I'd really want to see data from a 5 to 10 year period to really answer that question, because 1 year is 1 year, and it's 1 year with Coach Prime. So, I mean, let me see 10 years is like. We know they've always been the leader in FCS attendance, so it would seem to me that their ticket sale numbers should be a significant portion of their revenue. So, all right, that's all I got to say.
All right, quick, let's get the BAC and your non.
Exactly, Jeremiah. Trying to get out as quickly as I can. I got you. Go ahead.
Here's the first telling stat, Brian. going back to 21, 21, 22. Guaranteed games.
And again, we're talking for football, we're talking the fall of 2021.
Correct.
So that's
for football, but this does take
season,
into account. This does take into account basketball guarantees also. This is not just football guarantees. This is for the entire athletic department.
Okay.
This is how much money each institution brought in guaranteed games.
All I can say is I feel like the numbers are not accurately reported from some schools. You know, like you're going to tell me, nah, that I know that. I don't feel that that's right. But anyway. So Jackson State had less than $2 million in guaranteed games.
Yes. You know, remember the football when they went and played Bowden, I think they may have been their only guaranteed game that year. The game that they lost to Bowden. But also, Brian, for us on the HBCU level, those classes count as guaranteed games also. The payout that you get from going to a classic.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes. So take Alabama A&M Magic City Classic. Alabama State didn't report any revenue that year, but that would be for the Magic City Classic. Southern and Grambling, the Bayou Classic would be factored into this guaranteed game. So forth and so on. Southern, Texas Southern. I think there's actually a home and home. Not sure if there's an actual guarantee for that with the Labor Day Classic, but you get my point there, Brian.
See what's confusing about reporting it this way. There's a breakdown per school or per sport that I think is being undersold here. Yes. You know, because I obviously, you know, basketball has a certain number that they have to bring in versus football. And then don't forget the other sports too. I mean, I'm sure there's other I don't know how, you know, what does it look like in baseball? What does it look like?
Softball, possibly a couple of, you know, $10,000 here, $20,000 there to come play somebody early in the season.
Yeah, see, it's so hard with you really have to go into almost getting a full report from I don't know, a public records request, or at least it's out there. Like again, for example, and this is publicly out there. I mean, you could do a search and find it. Southern University's budget and everything from this past school year is out on the internet. You can see it. Yes. And it's a living document, and it tells you everything that everybody's making. It tells you how much the sports bring in, how much they're supposed to bring in, what their expenses are budgeted at. It's a great breakdown. It's probably the best breakdown that I have come across on the internet for an HBCU. So it would really be great. You know, I know we get excited about what these numbers and what, but I feel like it's so incomplete. I feel like there's still a lot that's not being said here.
Now here's your.
What's another?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to lead you in here. Go ahead. You got. Go ahead. Go with your next slide.
Right. This is your payouts that you receive. This is from the conference. Your media share, conference share, NCAA postseason payout. These are your numbers right there.
Okay.
And I'm assuming for somebody like a Jackson State, their Celebration Bowl money would have been included in this slide right here. Although you don't have the specific breakdown, this is how I would assume that it would be included. Same thing with South Carolina State. This was their Celebration Bowl year right here. I would think that would have been included in this slide right here for South Carolina State.
Norfolk State would have been basketball.
Correct.
Because I think you're okay.
And back here, this would have been Texas Southern in basketball this year.
And basketball as well. Yep. Yep. Good point. Okay.
There's A&T and Tennessee State. This one I found interesting, Brian. We was looking at revenues. Donors.
Not a lot to pick up on from off of this.
Yes. So yeah, not a whole lot to pick up on. You see who's doing well, who's not doing well.
Or who's reporting.
Who's reporting well and who's not reporting well.
Right.
Now, BAC, that's a different story. Everybody at BAC is getting some dollars, except for Eastern Shore. Here's your interesting number, Brian. When you take the expenses that each school has reported, divide that by the number of sports they offer, this is your cost per sport. And I got to get over here to it. So let's take, let's just go down the list. Alabama A&M.
How many sports?
I'll give you an example. Alabama A&M offers 16 sports. They have they have expenses of 14 point, we'll call it 14.2 for simple, $14.2 million. That equates out to $886,000 per sport. Now, we know they spend more for football. Yeah. We know they spend more for football, but when you just do a straight allocation divided by double sports, that's what it comes down to. Your leader, Brian, as you see in the SWAC, is Southern, who spends an average of $1.2 million per sport, followed by Prairie View at just over $1 million per sport. And bringing up the bottom of the list, Brian, Mississippi Valley State, spending an average of $270,000 per sport, Brian. Second from the bottom is going to be Alcorn at $458,000 per sport. Everyone else.
So when I see this,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, go ahead and ask you a question.
Well, I was going to say, when I see this, the anti-Title IX people will be up in arms about this, because if let me just use Southern, 1.25 million. We know there are some sports that are not going to bring in enough to cover the 1.25 million. This is the number that they're spending, right? This is their expense per sport.
Right. If you take their total budget, then make sure you understand this. You take their total budget, which for Southern was 18
expenses.
18 expenses, $18.5 million, $18.6 million. Southern offers 15 sports. Just straight math. That 18.6 million divided by 18. And that's how you get your 1.2, Brian.
Yeah. Hold on a second, Drew, because I don't want to. I want to make sure we're representing something here. This is what year is this again?
21-22. So this is year-old data.
So the Knight Commission shows
this is the latest that you could get a complete season, because the 22-23 numbers have not been all completed.
Yeah. So the expenses that they're showing at Southern was how much? 18 million something or other, right?
Yes. 18 point, we'll call it 18.6.
So if Southern's goal, if you had an AD that was going to, let's say the tennis coach, I'm just going to use tennis coach, okay, and say, hey coach, we've done an analysis of our expenses, and on a per sport basis, we need every sport to clear 1.25 in revenue to cover our expenses. Well, obviously, what's the tennis coach going to say? Well, I can't do that. I can't, where am I going to get?
That's a non-real.
Where am I going to get $1 million?
That's a non-real sport.
It's a non-revenue sport, exactly. So, as fun as it is, I understand why we do stuff like this, but this is a very misleading. Without some context, let me just say that you have to have the proper context and understand revenue generating and non-revenue generating sports as you look at this. I mean, you can look at this and say, oh, this is interesting, but then you have to put it in the right context, because you have non-revenue sports included in this mix.
Correct. The BAC also has two institutions spending over $1 million. That's coming with Morgan State at $1.06 billion, and also coming in at that same number as Norfolk, $1.06 billion. And now you notice Coppin down there. Keep in mind, Coppin and Maryland Eastern Shore do not offer football. So, by not offering football, they're spending $375,000 per sport at Coppin, and at Maryland Eastern Shore, they're spending $560,000, which is ironic that they're outspending South Carolina State, who does offer football, who spends $561,000. Maryland Eastern Shore spends $562,000 per sport.
So what, obviously what's your big takeaway, Drew? What do you kind of, when you look, are you able to draw any conclusions, whether they be or any thoughts that come to mind as you kind of looked at these numbers and broken them down the way you have?
Just, looking at Commissioner's Cup, where you get your bang for your buck at, Brian? That's one of the interesting things that I've done. Well, if you think about the Commissioner's Cup, every sport you play, every sport you compete in, you earn a point towards the Commissioner's Cup. So how much are you getting per point? How much does each point cost you? I'm a stats nerd, Brian. I'm a numbers nerd. Sometimes I see things deeper than the average person sees.
Yeah, you got me there.
Here you go. This gives you this kind of sums it up right here, Brian.
Oh, I love colors. I love colors. Yeah, that's all I mean.
I'll pull out the crayon box.
There you go.
But when you stack all those numbers that I just gave you independently, Brian, this is the breakdown in millions of dollars and how those make up each portion of the budget.
And again, this is for the 21-22 year.
Correct. So if you see the largest blue line on there is Jackson State, we'll just use them for example, and you see how much ticket sales make up their total budget. And then if you look at a place like Alabama A&M, you'll see how much those allocated dollars make up their budget.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the mix between, you see Southern and all the rest of the schools and kind of the mix. Here are your BAC schools. Very low ticket sales.
See, next thing we're going to do, Drew, is we're going to go into these allocated numbers and really take a deep dive into these allocated numbers, because it does make up a large portion of these athletic departments.
Edward Boyle, that's a very good question. Do you automatically earn points? It's based on your finish, and the reason I definitely had to separate that out is because the way the BAC calculates their all sports trophy is different than the way the SWAC calculates the Commissioner's Cup. So, you definitely have to separate those by conference when you try to figure out where they're getting their points at per conference as far as how they're ranking. And that's kind of, I like that one out of all the numbers that I threw up there, Brian, because it kind of lets you know how efficient you are in spending your money. If you're spending, say, $1 billion per sport, and you're coming in the bottom third of the Commissioner's Cup or the All Sports Trophy, that means your money is not being efficient. Where if you're spending $500,000 per sport, or say $800,000 per sport, but you're in the top 3 of the Commissioner's Cup or the All Sports Trophy, that shows you're getting bang for your buck. I think of all those numbers that I just nerded everybody out with, that was the one that I was most interested in when I was putting this slide together.
And I hate to be that person to pick on Southern University, but that year, now you have to wonder how much. You have to go back and look at the commissioners. Well, hold on. You pulled up the Southern won the Commissioner's Cup in 21-22.
Now I have to go back and I just did the math.
Well,
on it.
I guess my point that's where my thought is, because that's what I'd be if I looked at that last graph or the last two, the color graphs, the candy corn. That's where my mind is saying, okay, you talked about getting value and saying who won what, how many, like we know you can see in those certain chunks, like we just pointed out, Texas Southern, Norfolk State had certain
Alabama
distribution.
State,
Alabama State,
Commissioner's Cup. I don't think they won it.
Where did Alabama State? No, they didn't.
They won it this year. I can't remember where they finished last year.
I was just referring to there were certain categories which stand out. Ticket sales, Jackson State. Distribution of NCAA funds. Yeah, for example.
Now this is by you want the percentage or the dollars, Brian?
What do I have here?
This is by
you changed it up. Okay. Go back to dollars. Go to dollars for a second.
Just by dollars.
Yeah, don't give me percentage.
I don't like
give me dollars.
Either.
Okay, so yeah, in dollars, I can look at the Jackson State line, and I can, if I'm looking at Jackson State, and I can see that their ticket sales alone dwarfed the entire revenue that Mississippi Valley State brought in from everything, or at least what was reported. You know what I'm saying? I can look at the NCAA conference distribution. That's the green, right? And I can see Alabama State. Is Alabama State? Where did they go that year? Was that baseball?
Baseball won, I think.
Or is that the distribution from the All Commissioners Cup?
That's all of that goes into that. That's your NCAA payout. That's your distribution from the Commissioners Cup. That's your portion of the conference media contract, and any postseason money that you receive.
Okay.
That would be that green.
All right. So I would look at schools like Alabama A&M and say they had none of that, or either they didn't report any of that. You know, because they don't even have a sliver of green there.
Green.
You know.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Drew.
And remind everybody, this is 21-22, not the current year of 22-23. So everybody, when you're looking at these numbers, please slip back into your Wayback Machine. This was the fall season coming after the spring season. That's what we have to remember when we're looking at this as far as football numbers go.
All right. Wow. All right. We've gotten really late into the show, Drew. I've got an upset dog that is chewing on things that I don't think he's supposed to be chewing on. My stomach is growling because I haven't eaten dinner. Let's get ready to, let's kind of wrap it up here with some final thoughts. You did a great job of breaking that stuff down, really challenging us to really just think about the numbers. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, is looking at the numbers and really trying to, it's so difficult to look at every school, and so what you did is really good. And I think it's very important to people to recognize the difference there between the Knight Commission and what that USA Today database tells you, because look, that database can only work based on what's provided. And it's really interesting when you see the history of a school. That's all I'm gonna say. So if you when you look at that list, go click on the school and go look at the list. Go look at the school down the years.
Yeah, and something else, Brian. Despite the fact that we're talking dollars across the board with all these, the way each school has to report these numbers changes from state to state, Brian. There's certain things in Mississippi that you have to report that you can't do in the state of Florida. Some schools you have to end with a zero line based on the budget. That means if your revenues were short of your expenses, the university has to transfer money into your athletic account to balance that out, because you are a zero budget state. And on the flip side, if you happen to have money left over, you have to transfer that money back into the general fund of the institution and end your budget with zero. That's how it works in some states. Also, Brian, fiscal years are different from institution to institution and from state to state. Alabama State, Alabama A&M, they have a fiscal year that runs from October 1 through September 30. I'm here in Georgia. The state schools in Georgia run July 1 to June 30. And there are different variations in between in each state and each school. So these numbers kind of you have to play with them. All numbers aren't exactly the same based on fiscal year reporting, report times, etc., accounting practices at each institution and each state. It's close, but not necessarily the same.
Wow. Good stuff, Drew, man. Great points of emphasis there at the end. All right. Well, that I think, can we put a bow on it? Can we put a bow on it tonight, man?
Yeah, let's pick up this show and get out of here, man.
All right. I was looking at my personal schedule. I think I might be available Sunday evening. We might be back on our normal schedule. No guarantees though, because I don't know. You might be busy doing something, if I recall correctly, our earlier conversation. So
I haven't even looked that far, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm just trying to get through.
All right.
I'm trying to get through these 3 meetings I got tomorrow at work. All face-to-face meetings.
Well,
none of them even Zoom. I don't even get to Zoom them. I gotta look at them.
Oh, beautiful. Those are the best ones. Well, for you guys who are out there watching us, and you've if you're listening to us, if you've checked out, or you're listening on the Pod Zone and you fast forwarded, and feel free to go back and listen. However you want to consume the content, we appreciate you for doing so. Just make sure to hit the thumbs up button, the like button, rate and review, subscribe. We told you. We tried to warn you. We told you this. We nerded out with some great stuff with Uncle John, and then Drew took us to another level. And my stomach hates you, Drew. But it's good stuff. So if you if you're a numbers person, you got a kick out of tonight's show. Hopefully you enjoyed it to some degree. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number 1. Download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. MyJBN, MyBCSN is where you can find us. And go download the BCSN Pod Zone on all your favorite podcast platforms. The Urban Nerd Con is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, July 21st to the 23rd. And you can make sure to purchase tickets. TheUrbanNerdCon.net, I believe, is the website. Is that, you still have Roy's tweet saved in there, his message?
I should have saved it. You thought I would have been that smart, but I was not that smart.
Yeah.
I'm going back and looking for it right now.
Yeah. All right. So I believe it's either the Urban Nerd Con, CON.net, or it's .com, one of the two. So that's the Urban Nerd Con. And you can always find, there it is. I was right. You can always find the Grumpy Old Nerds with Uncle John and his co-hosts of Nerds, his friends, on Wednesday evenings, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, right here on the Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page, MyJBN1. So that's going to do it for tonight's show. For AD, I am Bryan. You guys be safe out here the rest of the week. Don't forget, the longest day of sunlight is Wednesday, the summer solstice.
If it don't rain first.
Get out, enjoy. Well, yeah. Hopefully you're not in the area where you're deprived of the vitamin B that you get from the sunlight. So enjoy it if you can. Be safe if you're in one of those dangerous weather areas. I saw a lot of affected areas in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. Be safe out there, people. Watch out for your friends, your family. Check on one another, and we will see you again next week. Thanks for everybody in the chat rooms for watching. We're out. Peace out. Have a good night, everybody.
Travel light. We'll holler.
But stay on hard.